and faster. Good for classification or a lot of kind of like basic things that people do before kind of understanding the intent of a user query and feeding it to the most powerful model to kind of hone what the prompt should be. So I don't know. I think that that's one thing that maybe the community can help fill in. But I mean, we're also thinking about getting around to distilling some of these ourselves. But right now the GPUs are pretty pegged training the 405. So
what? Okay, so you have all these GPUs. I think you said 350,000 by the end of the year.
That's the whole fleet. I mean, we built two. I think it's like 24,000 clusters that are kind of the single clusters that we have for training the big models. I mean, obviously across a lot of the stuff that we do, a lot of our stuff goes towards training like Reels models and like Facebook news feed and Instagram feed. And then inference is a huge thing for us because we serve a ton of people, right? So our ratio of inference compute required to training is probably much higher than most other companies that are doing this stuff, just because of the sheer volume of the community that we're serving.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was really interesting in the material they shared with me before, that you trained it on more data than is compute optimal just for training, because the inference is such a big deal for you guys and also for the community that it makes sense to just have this thing have trillions of tokens in there.
Yeah. Although, and one of the interesting things about it that we saw even with the 70 billion is we thought it would get more saturated at it's like we trained it on around 15 trillion tokens.
Yeah.
And I guess our prediction going in was that it was gonna asymptote more, but even by the end, it was still learning, right? It's like we probably could have fed it more tokens and it would have gotten somewhat better. But I mean, at some point, you're running a company, you need to do these meta reasoning questions of like, all right, how do I want to spend our GPUs on like training this 70 billion model further? Or do we want to kind of get on with it so we can start testing hypotheses for LLaMA 4? So we kind of needed to make that call, and I think we got it. I think we got to a reasonable balance for this version of the 70 billion. There'll be others in the future where, the 70 billion multimodal one that'll come over the next period. But yeah, I mean, that was fascinating that you could just, that it's the architectures at this point can just take so much data.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what does this imply about future models? You mentioned that the LLaMA 3 8B is better than the LLaMA 2 70B, right?
No, it's nearly as good.
Okay.
I don't want to overstate.
But does that mean like the LLaMA
in the same
4,
order of magnitude?
Does that mean like the LLaMA 4 70B will be as good as the LLaMA 3 4 or 5B? Like,
what is the future of this This is one of the great questions, right? That I think no one knows. Is basically, it's one of the trickiest things in the world to plan around, is when you have an exponential curve, how long does it keep going for?
Yeah.
And I think it's likely enough that it will keep going, that it is worth investing the tens or 100 billion plus in building the infrastructure to assume that if that kind of keeps going, you're going to get some really amazing things that are just going to make amazing products. But I don't think anyone in the industry can really tell you that it will continue scaling at that rate for sure, right? In general, in history, you hit bottlenecks at certain points. And now there's so much energy on this that maybe those bottlenecks get knocked over pretty quickly. But I don't know. I think that's an interesting question.
What does the world look like where there aren't these bottlenecks? Suppose like progress just continues at this pace, which seems like plausible.